Forum Borealis Paradigm Expansion.
Greetings from the north and welcome to the forum. Our guest today is Daniel Ronnstam, a Swedish academician who's fairly new to the Oak Island mystery, but has contributed with discoveries confirming the Templar Bacon RC lead, and who is in the process of preparing to publish his main research, which he believes to be major revelations in the field. Daniel has studied musicology, philosophy, the history of religion, and has specialized in esoteric and Eastern philosophy. His research interest is magic, the occult, and Western esotericism. As a profession, Daniel teaches film production. He is also a department member of Lund University, a filmmaker, and an electronic musician. The last 5 years, he's become an expert in historic cryptography as a result of looking into the Oak Island mystery, Francis Bacon, and the Rosicrucian riddle, after stumbling over a huge discovery connecting all these factors together. He's not published any book on the topic yet, but if you go to our website and check his biography, you will find links to all his different sites, including the one called Uncovering the Oak Island Project, where he's released some of his research work, including what you saw in the episode of The Curse of Oak Island at History Channel, which featured Daniel. We will update his guest page with a bibliography whenever that happens. Now, in the following conversation with Daniel about Oak Island and Francis Bacon, you will notice a few sound problems. This is not due to poor editing or anything like that. On the contrary, we managed to clean the sound from a worse condition. In fact, the whole interview was frequently disturbed by all sorts of factors, and the line was disrupted 11 times. We've never had such problems before, except for when we interviewed Petter Amundsen, but then only in part 2 of that program concerning the topic of Oak Island. So, if you want to believe that the infamous Curse of Oak Island is still going strong, we don't blame you. Welcome to a fresh new forum. Today we follow up on the subject that we started with Petter Amundsen about Oak Island and Francis Bacon, and a lot of exciting things. To enlighten us with this, we have with us the Swedish researcher, Daniel Ronnstam. And he's pretty new on the scene, but what he has found may be groundbreaking in the area of this research. Now, welcome to the forum, Daniel.
Yes, thank you.
So I might start asking you how you got involved in this mystery of Oak Island.
Yeah, it all happened around 2010, in autumn around 2010, with a colleague of mine told he saw a TV show where a hole in the ground and with water traps and so on. And I got really intrigued, and I started reading about it, and I have this like very intense mind, so I go in, I just flow into things like really hard, everything that's
That's handy.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I consumed a lot of books for about a few months and read everything I could about it, and then I lost interest a bit after a while. I've consumed a lot, and I started to hearing things about Francis Bacon and the Oak Island theory and Shakespeare and so on. I didn't know about Petter Amundsen at this time. This was like a year before I even knew who he was. But in March 2011, I discovered this connection actually on the internet. But I was skimming through all archives and so on, and it was a complete freak accident. When I discovered this, it was actually a cryptographic structure that I discovered on a complete freak accident. And that was the beginning of a 5-year-long journey into this.
And do you have any official background in cryptography and stuff like that?
I have a little bit, not too much before. Now I have, because I've read it a lot. But I was in, computer cryptography. I'm a media guy, so I know a lot about manipulating images digitally and so on. And then I have a field in one of the subjects is religious history, and I've studied esoteric teachings for esoteric movements in the Renaissance. So it was a combination of these two things that I think made me manage. So
yeah, it's the same thing. Experts, often they have some kind of natural background without realizing it, that kind of just pushes them gently in that direction because they've already done the groundwork without knowing that's where they're going. So when something happens like it did to you, you get confronted with it and bang, and it's there.
Yes.
So that's great.
But the thing was, I didn't know. I didn't know who Petter Amundsen was. I didn't know who Penn Leary was. I didn't know anyone who was talking about Francis Bacon, Oak Island, Shakespeare, and the connection and so on. But when after a year, when I found Petter's documentary films, I actually discovered that Petter has collected and also found himself different cryptographic techniques that they use. He has a Freemason background, as you know. And these methods was used in my discovery as well, in where I found some of them.
Yeah, right. So it's fair to say that you kind of you haven't invented your own approaches. You replicate what's already established tradition in your own.
Yeah, there is a system that Bacon have used, cryptographic symbolic themes, like with the 3-4-5 triangle, also with the Greek Latin character exchange thing, that Petter has found out, found proof of.
And he's talked a lot about that, so we don't have to go too much into that. No. But I want to assume now for a moment that our listeners do not know about what we're talking about. Bacon, Oak Island, what are they rambling about? Or even if they have heard the interview with Petter, we say Peter for Anglophonic reasons, but they will still not know enough because we just had time to go through his work, and as you know, that's plenty. So I think maybe we should just start, because you become so involved in this. You're even involved with the History Channel people, and we'll get there too. Yeah. But if you could just start with what Oak Island is at all. And I assume when you got the first tip about this from your friend, you didn't even know what Oak Island was, did you?
No, I didn't know anything about it, so I had to read in on it. Yeah.
So what did you learn?
Well, I learned that they have been digging there for 200 years, and they found a hole in the ground, a very, very deep hole that goes straight down with water traps. And a lot of artifacts spread out, stones and stuff on the surface, and then a swamp that is artificial. They found out later on. But and my immediate thought was, digging that deep in around the year 1600, that's what they found some C14 tests on woods and so on. My first thinking was could be completely idiotic to bury something of value that deep.
Because?
It would be mad, considering if it was a mine or a weapon storage facility or something, it will be a bit more understandable. But to bury something valuable, like a gold treasure or something that deep, will not be smart at all.
Yeah, because people used to believe that there was pirate treasure and stuff like that. More, let's say, nostalgic, romantic, traditional imaginations have been dominating. Even though people have talked about Knight Templars and Bacon and all that, I think still the majority imagines it's like a Disney story, right?
Yes.
So, but even manuscripts too would be idiotic to bury that deep, I assume, if gold is idiotic. Yeah. And why? Because it will be wet and rot?
Yes, because it would be extremely hard to get it up. Even if you didn't do any water traps, if you didn't create the water traps and you buried something valuable that's straight down, like it's 100 meters, it goes down 100 meters, something like that.
Oh, it's that much? Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot of depth straight down that they have built stuff. There's an iron plate. I think it's down 170 feet. I don't know what's that.
Could we talk in meters too? Since
Yes.
we're both European and bring in the European audience in this. So how much is that?
Yes, there's an iron plate at around 100 meters depth.
100 meters, yeah.
And below that iron plate, there are like a mix of chine and wood that are splintered. So they have actually dug further down and destroyed their equipment and filled the hole up with that. And then we have 10x, of course, which they have found stuff, and that's even deeper.
Yeah, 10x, just for those who don't know it, is another digging point.
Yes.
I guess there is two digging points there, because you just said that they've been digging there for about 200 years, and obviously there's been a lot of mining and digging in these years, but there are especially two places that people are most focused upon, and one of them is the so-called money pit that we were just talking about, where this stone you're talking about is, and the other one is the 10x that you now introduced.
Yes, the 10x was Dan Blankenship who did that.
One of the owners, right?
Yeah, and they entered into a cavity, which he thought he found some stuff in like wooden pillars and a box, and now the new owners put down scanning equipment and confirmed that there are man-made objects at that depth. And that is, I think, 150 meters down just below.
And we've all seen these pictures because they have been available since the 70s? The original ones, I mean, the film that this Dan Blankenship made. And it's
very blurry.
It's blurry, but it's so enticing. It's hard to make out, but you can see it's artificial. But of course the problem is pareidolia, right? People can project whatever they want into it, like... Yeah. Oh, there's a dead man lying there, there's a treasure chest, there's a book, all kinds of things. But now they have modern equipment, right? And that's what they've...
Yes.
And so far they just confirmed that there is something artificial there.
There's something artificial. It might be like a natural cave where they have... there are some remnants of people have been there or something. Or it's unnatural cave built by man. But anyway, to go that deep for a treasure keep, it's not smart. But if it's a mine, then it will be more appropriate. But I don't think it's a mine at all. So I think the whole thing is a decoy, actually, the same as Blankenship thinks. And I have good reasons to think that.
Let's get back to the decoy later. And that's interesting. And I think you're on page with Petter too on this, because... he's a little skeptical because who could have made such elaborate structures? One of the most frequent suggestions are the Knights Templars, right?
Yeah, but that's too early. If you consider, if you take the coconut fibers C14 test, it would be more appropriate. But there are wooden structures down there that are around 1600, and also the tree of life structure that Petter's have a theory about, and I claim that I have proven Petter's theory about that by uncovering the Victory Stone, and I saw it was handled on by men and tools. Okay,
let's get back to that too. Let's stick a little around these channels first, because a scientific-minded person will probably presume, if he is to buy into this, that apparently there could have been natural caverns that has been mined later, right? Isn't that possible?
You mean underneath the island?
Yes, that the first people who started this project, because there is other researchers that has pointed the Knight Templars to this place, and but obviously, like you say, it's very early for them to do something so elaborate. But if there were already natural caverns there, couldn't people, be that Knight Templars or others, have just tweaked and adjusted them a little?
I think there in the bedrock underneath the money pit, there probably was natural cavities because that kind of bedrock is filled with natural cavities. And they could have used that and so on. But what I was about to say is that the tree of life structure is a Renaissance construction. It's no earlier than the Renaissance. That is the Kabbalah tree of life design that Petter have his theory. It's actually it's no earlier than the Renaissance.
Okay. Is that because that's when Kabbalah became in fashion again?
Yeah, you can say that in Christian esoteric movements, the Kabbalah came into fashion. But it actually was in the Middle Ages, I think, in 1200, the main Kabbalistic books were written. Yeah, there are different books, of course, but from different times.
Which could mean Knight Templars, still, if we want to keep a completely open mind.
Yes, maybe it could be the Knights Templar. The Kabbalah is that old, but there are later additions to Kabbalah throughout the years.
Because Petter's trace is kind of the Knight Templar's trace anyway, because he's talking about this new the Templum, right, and a replica of Jerusalem and all that. So this is, even if it wasn't the 13th century Templars or 14th century Templars who did this, it's still their heirs who did it, if it happened in the 1500s or the 1600s or the 1700s, right?
Yes, if the Rosicrucians, if you think what it means a red cross. So, and the Templar flag was a red cross. Yeah, it could be people that had inherited the Templar objects or something. Could be that. Yes.
Okay, so we have these natural caverns that's under the island, and then you were mentioning coconut fibers and booby traps with water. Could you explain that for the novice listener?
Yeah, there are an artificial beach at Smith's Cove that has coconut fiber on it, and that had been 2 or 3 times carbon dated with 2 or 3 different fiber samples to the Middle Ages, around 12 to 1300. So that differs from wood taken from the money pit that is been carbon dated to the Renaissance. But anyway, these booby traps with water coming in, they intersect some other holes in the ground that are original work. We have the cave-in pit, and we also have the South Shore pit that was discovered by Dunfield when he was doing some work around the triangle. And then the Restals uncovered another pit that was much shallower and closer to Smith's Cove. And this pit was covered in like brick stones, and he knew it was original work because it was very old and it intersected the channel from the Smith's Cove. And these other caverns, they were hidden. They had a roof and they had vegetation over the roof, so they were meant to be hidden from sight. And that's why my thing with the Kempton symbol, dual cipher, comes in.
Yeah, we'll get back to that. But I've heard there has been attempts in history, and they try to replicate it in History Channel too. I'd say rather poorly and amateurishly, but apparently they have tried to fill water into one of these holes. I think it was the money pit itself, and then just to see if they could identify these booby traps. Could you tell us a little about this?
Yeah, they put dye in. I think they did that in the 19th century, and the brothers now also did it in one of the shows with green dye, I think.
And it's clever to use dye, right? Because it will be strong enough to be seen.
Yes, and it pops up all around the place, and I think it pops up at more places now than it did in the 19th century. They saw it in all 3 coves around. The other, I think, I'm not 100% sure about that, but now it's blown up, and there's a lot of much more holes in that ground now than there was before after the original design. Yeah.
So they have found wood, they have found these coconut fibers. By the way, what significance does the coconut fiber have? Why is this a big deal?
It's a big deal because it shows that if these are the same construction, which it must be, because the Smith's Code was created to filter in water into water traps that went to the money pit. So the designers in the Renaissance used material like coconut fiber that grew in the Middle Ages. And if you connect that, they must have taken that coconut fiber in massive amounts from somewhere. And these two samples were taken, it was not the same sample that was carbon dated, it was two different samples from different parts of the beach. And I personally talked to Beta Analytics that did one of the samples in 91, and he confirmed there's no contamination. They sort that out, so that C14 test is correct, and it was also that in 91. So maybe they used the coconut for packing stuff with, and if they inherited something, then maybe they used the packings that this inherited stuff was packed in.
Because that was common back then, right?
Yeah, that's what they used coconut fiber for, was to pack things, back in those.
When was both of these identified according to the carbon dating?
They were 1250 to 1350 or something. It was the same.
So now we're back to the Templars.
Yeah, that's the Templar age, yeah.
Because there is these persistent rumors, not just rumors, but also research and traces, and probably you know about the Kensington stone and all this. So it is interesting. If their heirs, so to speak, were to choose a place to put Templar artifacts, what better place than to follow the traces of their own forefathers? Because we know it's now proven beyond any reasonable doubt that Templars have been in North America. If not anything else, then at least via Viking Templars. Yeah. So it would make sense that because if they did have heirs, if they didn't be completely crushed as the mainstream assumption has been, by the way, without having any evidence, it's just been an assumption. Then so if there were anyone there still who were their heirs, they would know where their forefathers had gone. And if they had the means and the resources, they could replicate it. They could follow.
Yes, and also you have the situation where Bacon, Francis Bacon, he was sitting in the board for both the Newfoundland Company and the Virginia Company, and that's above and below Nova Scotia, or Arcadia, it was called back then.
Yeah, so hang on, this is interesting. The island itself was called Arcadia.
Arcadia, yes.
And that's ripped out of the esoteric myths. Et in Arcadia ego.
Yeah.
And also, you're saying that he was on the board, so he was one of the owners of this place, right?
I don't know if he was the owner, but he was anyway in a very high position in both these companies, both Virginia Company with Jamestown and stuff that was just around the New York area. Then you have Newfoundland above. So he was very, very involved in the colonization of the very early colonization of America. Very interested in it. Yeah. And
do we know who named that island? And who called that place Nova Scotia? Do you know either?
1604, the French named it Arcadie, which means Arcadia, and that was because it was very beautiful, and the myth of Arcadia was very prominent in the Renaissance literature at the time.
Untouched.
So they used Arcadia, and then I think it was much later it became Nova Scotia. I don't know exactly when it was, but if I remember it correctly, it was officially named in 1604 to Arcadie by the French. Not 100% sure about that date, but it was around that time anyhow.
But the island was called Arcadia or Arcadia, but at some point the island got named Gloucester Island.
No.
And that's interesting.
Yeah, now
Yeah?
this is, Arcadia is the whole of Nova Scotia.
Ah, the whole of Nova
Yeah,
Scotia.
the whole of Nova
Ah.
Scotia was called Arcadia.
That's even more interesting because it means that first you have the name Arcadie that can be related to the Templars and the Rosicrucians. Then they changed the name to Nova Scotia. That can also be because the old Scotland was Sinclair, where was apparently where the artifacts were before they were carried over, and then over to the new Scotland, the Nova Scotia. And then you have the island in Nova Scotia itself, first called Gloucester Island. Do we know anything about who named it Gloucester, and why is Gloucester significant here? I mean, sorry, a colleague of mine corrected me. He said in English we say Gloucester.
Yes, okay.
Typical Scandinavians to say Gloucester. So Gloucester, why was it called Gloucester, and who on earth was Gloucester?
I don't know that really. I saw a little bit on Petter's documentaries about that, but I have not gone into that research about the island name at all, actually.
Okay, but I tip you off to check it out because I'm not sure myself, but from what little I've seen, Gloucester was involved in the Knight Templar thing.
Yeah, it was some kind of with esoteric movements.
Yeah, and something about preserving a body or something. I forgot. Right.
Yeah, I think it was in the first documentary series Petter did. There was something about that. I don't remember it too well, actually.
Well, we've alerted people about it so they can check it out themselves. But my point is, none of these names are coincidental, except maybe for Oak Island. That's a pretty trivial name, actually. But then again, Oak seems to have some significance here.
There was a lot of large oaks on that island that was different from other islands around it originally. They're all gone now, but they had some disease or something. But it made the island stand out, I think, visually when it come in.
Well, I heard that a theory that a hypothesis that they chopped all down the oak in order to mine, to build. And we have found wood, haven't we?
Yes, they could have done that as well, cut it down both in the 19th century and when they made the original thing.
Oh.
Or they could have planted the oaks after the construction to mark the island. So it's more visible and stand out.
Right. But have you identified what kind of wood they found when they have found stuff in these mines?
No, I don't have info on that.
Yeah. That should be significant, I think, too, to find out.
Yes, it could be, yeah.
But especially to carbon date it. I mean, that must have happened.
Yes, what I'm thinking is a bit strange is why they have not gone after the rest of pit, the caving pit, and the South Shore pit. The diggers, the brothers who work there now, because if they go down there, they could find original work still, because there are bricks on the walls on these holes. Dunfield said there was bricks, and the caving pits had bricks, and also the rest of the pit. So if they find these places, they can maybe share some light on who built it, because if they burned those bricks or created those bricks, they did it with some method,
right?
And this method could possibly, I don't know, but possibly it could maybe trace more to who built it.
Yeah, you should tip them off about that.
Yeah, I have told them a little bit about that, but
okay, good. Yeah. Well, as long as they're aware, because they call the shots now, but it would be a tragedy if the people who are involved there are not aware of the possibilities. If they're aware and they ignore, then it's on them.
Yes.
But at least people are helping and chipping in and like you did.
Yeah.
And we'll get to your part in this story, but I want to focus a little more on the island itself before we move on. They have found another weird thing about Oak Island, and people, when you check out, if you're new to Oak Island, you'll find that it is probably the most famous and hyped treasure island in the world. Well, I don't know even why they call it Treasure Island, because no treasure has been found yet.
No.
But No, but they found a lot of other weird stuff here and there, right?
Yeah.
Not just in these digging places, but all over the place. I mean, they found artifacts, they found markings, they found stones, they found... maybe you can update us a little on traditionally what has been found or claimed to have been found on the island during these hundreds of years.
Yeah, they have found Spanish artifacts, of course, like shoes, and they have found artifacts that can connect to Renaissance Spanish big miners or something. They have found stones, stone piles, drilled rocks, large stones, they're making up the Nolan's cross. And they have found a stone with the G cut on the side of it, like for Masonic
Right.
G.
Right.
They have found a equilateral triangle. There's also clear Masonic connection in stone.
What was that? Triangles?
They have found a stone formation, a small stone formation with stones laid out like an equilateral triangle. And an equilateral triangle, that's a clear Masonic symbol. I've been for a long time.
Could that be the reason why so incredibly many Masons have been there digging, including an American president?
Yes. Yeah, the early diggers were Masons, almost all of them, and at least the projecteers. And they knew this was a Masonic construction. I'm sure about that. It is an early Masonic construction.
It can't be coincidental that so many Masons have been attracted to the place.
No, I don't think so.
And they found coins, right?
And they found coins, yes. And my theory is this, because what I found shows that this is these English projecteers. There's English projecteers, and but the workers are Spanish, and that's not coincidence, because in those days, if you were a nobleman or a man with education in England, you travel around on a horse, you had fancy clothes, and everyone knew who you were.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do a secret project, you can't use English miners, because they can understand what you say and they could recognize you.
Right.
So what they did was they went to the arch enemy of England, Spain, and hired the largest miners they could find, so they needed fewer of them. And then they took them in small in boats underneath. They didn't know where they were at all, in small groups, and told them a fake story of what they're going to do. So each group did a small section of the construction, and what told some story that wasn't true of what they were doing.
Wow, that's exactly what black operations, how they operate today. This compartmentalization, this false flag mentality, because that's how you can get away with a classified project when you need to involve outsiders. That's so clever.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in the 1600s, the early 1600s here, there were no people here except the Mi'kmaq Indians. Or the Mi'kmaq, how do you pronounce them? And they went down fishing in the summer times just for a few weeks, and then they went up to the mountains again. So there were no people there at all at large times.
So it was not colonized, that part of North America at that point.
No, not that there were ships going around, but this is in a bay. So Oak Island is way inside a bay. So you see ships coming from miles away.
Right.
So it was a very safe place to work at. And it's a huge project. It's a massive undertaking and very expensive. And if the projecteers were English, they would need to speak English when they plan stuff. And if they had Spanish workers, they could just talk English freely and then talk Spanish to the workers. Bacon spoke both languages fluently, but so what you can do?
Yeah, upper class people were educated, but the poor Spanish workers, weren't they slaves, by the way, many of them, or prisoners? I heard.
They could have been. I don't have a theory about that, but it could have been.
No, I think Petter mentioned that Thomas Bushell, which is this mining expert that was closely affiliated with Bacon, that he went to Spain to an area where I forgot the details. People can check it up by listening to our former show. But
Mm.
apparently they had slaves or prisoners for hire there. And obviously these would be probably captured pirates or whatever. I mean, people who had little to no education. Speaking of pirates, wasn't this also... was this a part of the area where the pirate ships were roaming around?
There were some pirate ships area, but I think it was more to the south of Arcadia,
Yeah.
a little bit further down, where the Spanish ships went up with all the gold.
Yeah, of course. What would the pirates do at a remote place where there's no one to rob?
Yes, but there were a lot of activity there, where ship-wise, sailing-wise, there was fishing going on
Okay.
outside in the sea and so on. So it was not completely empty, but as I said, Mahon Bay is a very large bay,
Yeah.
and there was no reason for ships to go in there if they're not okay if they were fishing, but then you see them from miles away.
Yeah. Plus another thing, the pirate hypothesis. I mean, those who have a more limited perspective about what this mystery is about, they think that, well, they could have gone there to hide their booty, right? Like we read about in the novels and stuff. But like you just said, it's a huge undertaking
for
pirates.
Massive undertaking.
Yeah. I mean, they couldn't have pulled it off if they even wanted to, could they?
No, and they had no incentive to do it, no incentive at all, because why go so deep? It's and why spread out a lot of stuff on the surface to give the place away? And I think the money pit and the stuff's laying around on the surface is just that. It's created for people never to forget the project. The project needs to be in people's minds all the time until it's solved.
Do you know Petter's, let's call him Peter so people know who we're talking about. Do you know Peter's hypothesis about, he says that, granted is Bacon and those guys who's behind it, that they put the treasure map and the clues, so to speak, of finding these things in Shakespeare and the stuff around Shakespeare, the tomb and all this, and then they put the ability to understand it, to crack these codes, into masonry, like a kind of a deliberate sending out two different tools in each direction that needs to come together in order to pull this off.
Yes.
What's your thought about that?
Yeah, I think that's he is absolutely correct in that assumption, because and I don't think that Shakespeare is all the places they put information in. They have spread it out, and they have used Masonic symbolism and cryptography methods from the time that esoteric movements used in order and they have used Bacon's name as a pointer. Especially in the Shakespeare works, they put Bacon's name, they put an acrostic and telestic, and as Petrus and his and the director Jürgen, they have also found some stuff, and I've also found things, and that the name Bacon is not there only to show that Bacon wrote his works. I don't think that's why it's Bacon's name is mentioned in acrostics. It's because it's a wake-up call for future Freemasons. Yeah, if Bacon was involved in creating early Freemasonry, or the first lodges and so on in early England, early London situation Renaissance, then my theory is that he put in his name as a wake-up call for future Freemasons, as he thought that future Freemasons should know that he was the leader around the Renaissance in their organization. So he's calling for future Masons by using his name, and then also using Masonic symbolism in the code and cipher work.
But apparently Masonry got hijacked or degenerated, or how should I say, the forces of corruption of power at some point took over, and they formed this United Grand Lodge, and stuff just got forgot, or maybe it didn't become forgotten. Maybe deliberately this stuff was removed because ordinary Masons has not been raised in this understanding. So, I mean, there's conspiracy theories about this. Oh, the Vatican, the Jesuits, or even that there is a segment within Masonry, the top elite of Masonry, that's keeping these cards close to their chest themselves.
Well, you have a Bacon statue in the Washington. I don't know where it is actually, but you know the whole Washington town is built on Masonic geometry, and you have a Bacon statue in there. And
but when was this done? This was done very early, wasn't it?
yeah, it was
still
quite early. Not as early as when Bacon lived, but it was around there. I don't know exactly what it was, but okay, if you talk to a 33 level Mason today, he might not be aware that Bacon was one of the early Mason leaders. But you know, so it could have been forgotten. You know, absolutely, it could have been forgotten within Freemasonry.
But probably not among those who built the first American, at least Washington, because it was this project. Bacon made this book New Atlantis, which is a blueprint of America, and Washington and Jefferson and all these guys who were the founding fathers, they were enlightened Masons, all of them, progressives, revolutionaries, you know, fighting for the getting away from the Catholic suppression. Everybody should be educated, raising the civilization, etc. This was back when I'd say Masonry was fresh. I'm not dissing current Masonry, but there is a certain cultural and historical difference between Masonry back then and Masonry now. I dare say. I hope Masons listening to this are not getting their toes too stepped on, but that's my observation for what it's worth.
Yeah, so I know I'm not a Mason myself, but you know, of course Masonry has changed a lot. It has, but I think it still keeps the main focus, and that is to evolve like morally, to educate people morally, or make them more aware morally, you know.
And you are educated in the so-called liberal arts, as they call it, these basic, I'd say Platonic or Pythagorean, better to say, approaches to educate or to mature yourself. So yeah, I agree. There's a lot conserved still within Masonry, but the Rosicrucians are probably an even more interesting lead here, because the interesting thing is that if we are to buy this discovery and approach that especially Petter now is associated with, then there is no other choice than to conclude that those people behind the Rosicrucian fad, because that's basically what it was, they were the proto-Masons. And in a way, one could say that it is the elite, it's the insiders, it's a special group within what became Masonry, which especially have Bacon in the center. And many current Neo-Rosicrucian groups have since the beginning pointed to Bacon. I mean, this has been a persistent belief that Bacon was central for a very long time.
Yeah, yes. Or it could be as simple as the Rosy Cross and the Rosicrucians are a name that is associated with the Oak Island project only. And that is it's early Freemasons that created this with Bacon and his people. So that if you read the manifestos from Central Germany, if you read them very, very carefully, and you know about Oak Island and stuff, you know, how it's constructed, you will see there are parallels. So they're very subtle and associative, but there are quite striking amount of parallels.
I swear, Daniel, this was my next question to you, because you were just saying that you thought they had put clues out in several places, and I was thinking then I have to asking about the manifestos, because apparently nobody is examining the manifestos of all things. So nobody has invested these manifestos in this context with Oak Island before, except perhaps you?
Yeah, I was collaborating with a professional historic translator, Paul Ferguson, and he actually translated some of the more unknown manifestos, Rosicrucian prints, from Latin to English for the first time. And for me, and also Adam MacLean was yeah.
So you're talking about not the manifestos themselves, but some of these Rosicrucian alchemical printings or engravings that's out there?
Yeah, we have Pandora of the Sixth Age from 1617 or 18 from Salzburg, and that is very interesting, that book. The prints in that book, if you compare it to what you know about Oak Island, if you know a lot about Oak Island, you see striking parallels. They're not clear and precise, they're a bit associative, but you see a lot of things that you can relate to Oak Island. You see Bacon figure with there's like two boxes and the Bacon figure standing. You see I place hope in the future, and I'm sworn to silence. That's in Latin of the two boxes, and you have a figure that looks like Bacon standing on both of them. And a lot of talk about, the Fama Fraternitatis, go and search for a treasure. They say, my theory is the manifestos were created by this English group centered around Francis Bacon, and they were sent down to central Germany, to Tübingen, which was a free-thinking state. He had connections there, and they said, translate.
Oh, we know that Bacon had his connections there?
We don't know that. But free thinkers all over Europe were quite connected at those times,
Yeah, around the court, right?
Yes.
But don't we know that Bacon was in touch with at least German esotericists? I think I read that.
Could have been. I don't know.
Michael Meyer, maybe?
Yeah, Michael Meyer. I don't know that for sure. But what I know is that in one of those manifestos, there are a phrase, I think it's on my website also, but where they're talking about when you pluck a lute, there's resonance, and when you pluck the lute. And that same phrase, almost exactly the same phrase, are then printed in some of Francis Bacon's work. I don't know if it's Sylva Sylvaris, where he's talking about experiments, So it's ripped straight off.
Yeah.
For some. So there are some connections,
For sure. I mean, we'll have the easiest case in the world if we want to prove connections between German, English, French, and Italian esotericists at the time.
Yeah.
So that's not something we're pulling out of our behinds.
No.
But the Oak Island approach, that's pretty fresh and original in this context.
Yes, but my theory is that the Rosicrucian manifestos were printed for two reasons. One reason was to ignite an intellectual revolution, of course. That's the theory. And also in order to search, to say to future people, go search for the Rosicrucian vault, which is Oak Island. The Oak Island project, let's say, not Oak Island, but Oak Island project. Yeah. So they're saying it quite straight off in the Fama Fraternitatis. They're just saying about go search for the treasure, and they buried it in myth and strange things that seems like fiction, and it is fiction. Most of it is fiction, of course, but there is a vault for real, and that is the Oak Island project.
But then Bacon has to be Father CRC. There can be no question, and the reason they haven't found his body must be because they have taken this literally and actually buried him there. I can't see any conclusion.
Yeah, I don't know that, but the thing is that this is all a theory. We cannot base it in facts. This connection between the Rosicrucian manifestos and Oak Island, but this is how they have worked. They're working in hints that they repeat, like very faint, insinuative hints that they repeat, and you have to see the hints and the repetition of the hints in order to get a connection. Or is very intelligent. And if you go the Beautiful Mind direction, and you're mad. You've seen Beautiful Mind. You see patterns all over the place. If you don't know how to analyze the hint-like structures, then you can't get an understanding of intention or coincidence.
Right. But you also need to understand. You need to have knowledge about the context. It's not enough to see that there's hint there. You also need to understand, how to connect it to it, right?
Yes, of course, and you have to know the context background, but you also need to develop. I've worked with a professor in mathematics here in Lund. It was Thomas Persson. He had developed statistical models in order to analyze cryptographic structures, steganographic structures, alignment structures, and stuff like that. And they have taken out quite distinct and very hands-on models that just said, this structure has this statistical chance of appearing on coincidence.
Ah, cool, yeah.
In this book, so it's quite hands-on, and when you use those, you get an understanding. You get a little bit more understanding about, am I imagining this, or are they real? Like, could this be intended?
Right.
And then when you work it that way, you can collect more hints and you get instructions out.
And then you can qualify it, so to speak, by understanding that it explodes the coincidental margin, so to speak.
Yeah, sooner or later it does that. But the thing is that it's so extremely intelligent constructed by Bacon and his gang, because it's not a cryptography, it's not even steganography. It's something beyond steganography, because it's.
Wow.
It's you work with hints that you don't. If you look at an isolated hint, you cannot understand if it's intended or not. You have to suspect it's intended, and then go further, and then collect another one, and another one.
But hang on, let's dumb this down. If not for the listener's sake, then at least indulge me. Let's say that we are talking about a pattern, because that's what we are talking about, right? They are putting small glimpses of a pattern. Yeah. But the question is, do you need a key to crack this pattern, or do you just need to recognize it and have the context understanding?
That's different from different structures you find. In my main discovery, there are very faint structures, but then they can be verified. There are verification systems. There's two sets. One, you understand instructions, and then you use the instructions you have taken out, and if you use them right, you get out the encrypted information. But if you do it wrong, you can't verify the encrypted information.
Okay, but how do you verify it? Is it by comparing it to statistics, or how do you know that it's verified?
You do it by decrypting another copy of the same. It's I can't go too deep into now because I'm in negotiations, so I can't go deep into the cryptographic structure.
Yeah, you can't reveal too much. No,
I can't go real that, but it's coming. I promise you, it's coming.
Okay. At part 2, you'll tell the listeners who knows you and has followed your work. You'll give them an explanation, an update, and a disclaimer. So that's okay. But for the sake of everyone now, so when we're dealing with this phenomenon, we understand that they have used several methods, not just cryptography, not just steganography. Or are you saying that because we do know that they have used those, should we say, effects or approaches also, right?
Yeah.
But there's something more here in addition. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, there's something more. They are. What do you say? How can I explain it? If you have a book and you open it, and on the left pages there are text, and on the right pages there are just encrypted information. And in the text that seems to be about something else, that this is steganography, there are embedded instructions in the text that you need to use in order to decrypt the other page.
So this steganography is kind of how to get the key to read the hidden codes.
Yeah, how to get the system of extract information and verify it.
And verify
that you have done it correctly.
Of course, a skeptic would say that, well, you can imagine anything, it's pareidolia. But Petter had several good points. One was that, and I think that applies here too, one was that, well, if you do find a lot of these things and they all point in the same direction, they kind of confirm each other. If it was just blind dumb luck, they would point all over the place in all directions, right?
Yes, and they have built, in my main discovery, they have actually built a system where it's logically impossible for two copies of the same publication that is encrypted. If you decrypt one publication with a method, you get a result, and you encrypt another of the same publication, and you get the same result. And the third, and you get the same result. If these three works were not encrypted, you could not get the same result out of them. That's how they are built it. So the verification process is by decrypting many copies. Yeah, and you need a group of people to do that, or a very persistent one guy working many years.
A madman like you.
Yes.
And Petter.
Yeah.
But you and Petter's curse, and maybe especially yours, but I see this in Petter's case too, is that your curse is that it's so sophisticated, it's so elaborated, that most people, first of all, they won't fathom it. And even if you get them to start to understand it, they won't believe it. And even we see even experts in Shakespeare, experts in history, people who you assume would be educated enough to get these things, even they don't take it seriously because they lack the necessary. Because you need, like you just indicated, you need a group, you need an interdisciplinary approach to understand. I mean, art history will confirm cryptology, which will confirm the history of esoterics, that will confirm the lore in masonry, that will confirm, all these things has to come together for someone to start to realize what's going on here, and who, in this day and age where everything is compartmentalized, everything is split and rule, everybody is getting more and more specialized. And
yes,
it's impossible. So I can see it's a very lonely and very hard to get that message out there. And let's face it, we're not. I mean, back then it was the age of the lonely. How should I say? The isolated genius, the brilliant, archetype, mad, brilliant people. Today we're all more or less mainstream on the factory maze. So we can't match that level of intelligence, I think, anymore.
I think there's also a problem with, as you said, this kind of subject just gets between two chairs, disciplinary. If you have the literary guys. I mean, the Shakespeare works have been read like hundreds of times, millions of times, I must say, but at least hundreds of times of people doing PhDs on these books.
Yeah.
And none of them have even seen the very, very obvious structures that Petter has found and others, like alignment structures between Lord. So they haven't even discussed it in the PhDs. Because they are literary.
No, I'll beg to differ. Yeah. At least one exception is Brenda James that we're going to interview.
Yeah.
She found some codes pointing to Neville. But obviously her approach is just, she used this, it's not Oak Island, it's just Shakespeare and what she actually found. Yes. So I get that. But she too realizes there's what she calls Neoplatonic connections here. Because it's so obvious when you go into it. But in general, I agree with you. The academicians of today, they get a huge, big fail. I mean, Bacon would be so disappointed, I'm sure, if he lived today.
Yes, if you have cryptographers, they work with computers now. They do computers, bank stuff, and crypto. They don't look to old literature.
No.
The old cryptography, the hands-on cryptography with the like pen and paper and so on. It's forgotten. There's some historians, crypto historians, but there are not many.
No.
And especially not steganography historians.
Right.
That's way out. I know there's only a few like Penn Leary and Petter Amundsen, of course, and now me, but we're getting more, of course. There's, the whole Norway is doing historic cryptography.
Yeah, I hope we can awake Sweden too, by the way. They should, now that you're on the team, they should have an incentive to get on board.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
But obviously, you know about Sigmund Jola?
Yes, from Petter's documentaries, yes.
Yes, and he illustrates what we're talking about here, because first of all, he's one of the most intelligent men in the world, according to IQ, and one of the leaders in Mensa.
Yeah.
So he has the apparatus to understand these things in place, and then we have the fact that he's a multi-talent, which just goes to show what we just talked about, that you need different approaches. He's worked with this ancient way of printing.
Yeah.
The Gutenberg way. So he understood immediately when he got confronted with Petter's work that, no, this is deliberate. No, they would have to go out of the way. This isn't a mistake. This is actually an achievement.
Yes.
And stuff like that. And then he has he's an architect, he's this, he's that. So guys like him would get this. And Petter calls himself a maniac. Like, he's got this obsession with finding out. And I guess you're kind of the same guy too. And I guess that's what it takes in this day and age to try to nest up some of what these brilliant people have left behind.
Yes, and I think Jola is Freemason also, yeah.
Yes,
I think it's
yes.
quite, yes. So you get, I don't know this, but I think you get some form of education. You have the ability to get education in classic symbolics.
Yes. No, that's no secret. You do join the Masonry. You get some study material, and you get oral tradition and the rituals and stuff. So I will try not to step on the toes again, but let's say, and I'm pulling this out of my ass, I admit it, but let's say that 50% are not too into it. They join the Masons for, my father was a member, or it's a good business opportunity, or it's what everybody in my environment does, or whatever. But then you got those people who are Masons in spirit too, and who usually end up as librarians or whatever. And they would, they are carrying the Masonic mantle, so to speak, then.
Yeah. Yes, actually, in the Nova Scotia, I noticed there are a lot of Masons all over the place. You have a grocery store and a lodge.
Oh, you mean who lives there? You mean the inhabitants?
Yeah, the inhabitants in around the Halifax area, the whole of Nova Scotia, has a lot of Freemasons.
That's interesting.
Masonic lodges all over the place.
Yeah. That's some conspiracy-minded people would think, oh yeah, see, they're there, they're watching the treasure. But I'd approach this from a more historic perspective. If there was proto-Masons involved, then obviously it wasn't forgotten the day after they buried it. They probably checked up on it for a while. So the first settlers there, it's probably been Masons there from the beginning. And if there is a precedence of Masons, then this is what you get. You get, oh, my father was a Mason, my grandfather was a Mason, my neighbor is a Mason, my colleague is a Mason, And that's a sociological explanation that I think is the most realistic.
Yes, yeah. The whole East Coast of America is very lodge intense, if you say, at least compared to Sweden,
But then they should have a lot of archives that could be.
Yeah.
Do you have access? Do you know if anyone has access to this?
I met, when I was over the filming last year, I met this guy Kel, was a very nice guy, and I think he's 32nd degree Mason.
Yeah, I saw that episode, yeah.
Yeah, we went into archives and so on, but were not very happy to open them up. So let's be, but they did, of course. Yes, they did.
Well, I say it's just a question of ignorance, because all Masons who feel the true calling of Masonry, we have this expression in Norwegian and Swedish. We have this saying, I don't know if you can translate it, but they should know when it's time to visit. This is the time to visit. They need to open, they need to actually go in their own archives, Masons all over the place.
Yeah.
If they want their lost secrets to be restored. By the way, do you have any idea of how this got lost? If it is indeed lost, if there's not people still alive who knows about these things, how on earth did they manage to lose such a hugely important...
No, I think it was constructed in order for to be forgotten as a project. Because that creates protection.
Yes.
If it's a mechanical system of sorting out the wrong kind of people. It's a mechanical system of if they inherited something and that they felt they couldn't protect, and they wanted to bury it so that future people can find it, and then they created a mechanical system that works by itself, sorting out people. And then they use the greedy, the money pit, they use the greedy as a beacon. So the greedy, they're never going to stop digging. They have to keep digging in that hole to try to get past the border traps and spread rumors about the island, so that it could be connected to cryptography later on by worthy people.
That's such a good point. Because even if they were pure of heart, etc., and responsible people themselves, there's no guarantee, if all the Masons knew about this, it would be doomed to be decayed and corrupted, and eventually someone would.
Yeah.
Yes. But by creating a system that's so sophisticated, they would assume that, okay, in the future, if it goes the right way, if this project goes the right way, the new world and all that, and there's freedom and civilization, and people will be worthy, like you say, and seek for the right reasons, and they will have the means and the intelligence to crack this. That makes sense.
Yeah, there's two tests. There are an intelligence test and there are a resource test. And
Right.
the intelligence test also want a group of people to solve it. And from my discovery, you see that if I didn't use computers, it would be almost impossible to do. It would be impossible to do myself. So you need a large group to do it. And also on the island, you see, everything is so large. Everything is massive. You need a lot of people in order to get anything done on the island, or big machines nowadays, of course. But yeah.
How large is the island in metric counts, approximately?
Well, I don't know actually, but it's large.
Or the area where we're talking about, because it seems so small from above, on television, but obviously that's not an authentic impression. You've been there.
Yeah.
How long time do you think you would use just walking around the entire island?
Few hours, I think. 2-3 hours
Okay.
to walk around the entire island.
And I heard that in former times, actually that's just basic knowledge, that the sea level was lower, so the island must have been even bigger, which means actually that stuff may have some clues may be there which are now underwater. Have you thought about that?
Yes, on the south shore, the sea have eaten away on the south shore mostly, and also on the north shore, of course, because the sea level has risen. But I think the ice holes, what's it called, where the dive came out on the outside, like out in the water from the south shore. That was where the beach was back in the days, I think, around that area. And the swamp was created in the center of the island, or almost.
Wow, so back then that was the center.
I'm not 100% sure, but
No, but that's your theory.
Yeah, it's a theory around it was
interesting
to be protected. There's natural springs filling up the swamp, and you have a flat surface on the bottom.
Yeah, that's mystical. I hope they will decode that eventually.
Yeah, it's an artificial swamp, no doubt about it.
Okay. Hey, before we wrap up for the break, I have one question about Rosicrucian manifestos.
Yeah.
Have you tried to use Bacon's cipher system on them?
No, I haven't.
Nobody have.
You mean the bilateral cipher system?
Oh yeah, of course, because the original is in German, right?
Yeah, and Latin. Some are in Latin as well. So German and Latin. But I haven't tried that. I have looked for cryptosteganography structures in the manifestos, but I can't find them myself. And
but you're talking about translations now?
there are original prints that are both printed in Latin and then later in Germany, or vice versa. So
so you've been looking at the original, not in the English translations, but in the originals. You've been looking.
Yeah, I've been looking on all over them. I've been checking through a lot of connected, prints and documents, and there's some very, very strange connections between these publications going out in this area, and a friend of mine from the internet called Paul Lappin, he has been conducting an investigation of the Green Man wood carving. I have that on my website. And he has done extensive work. It's not official, so I can't talk about it. But he has done a lot of work, on that Green Man. And what I can say, just one example I can say that I found, the Porta book that Dr. Willem used in order to break the Kempton symbol sequence. That book is from 1563, printed in Neapolis, but a copy was printed in London in 1591 by a printer John Wolfe. And this guy, John Wolfe, he was notorious for making legal printing.
Illegal. He was a pirate printer of the day.
Yeah, also, and it was a very famous printer. But this copy was commissioned by Henry Percy, who was a very rich, esoteric earl who was into alchemy and stuff. And they used much better paper than they usually did at those times. When they made a copy of this book, and on the front page they used a Green Man wood carving. The exact same piece of wood carving then appears in the year 1600 in Shakespeare's Much Ado But what's called Much Ado.
Wow, that's a clue.
On the front page with a little damage on the corner, but it's the exact same wood print. And this wood moves around different printers, and it's all over Europe. It moved from Kassel. Is in the same design is in the Rosicrucian manifestos, and some of them printed in Poland. And it moves around. It moves from Venn to Kublau. It moves down to Kassel, printed in Adam Hasselmeyer's answer to the Fama. And it just moves around very radically,
But that's so weird. Why? Because the Green Man is not a pan-European tradition, is it? I always imagined it was a Celtic tradition.
Yeah, I don't know exactly. It's something to do with English tradition, yes. But
that's a clue then. That's a clue. Because if they use something that would be common all over Europe, it would be harder to get that this is actually deliberate.
Yes, but Paul Leppen, I suspect that there was something with this because this Green Man popped up in different publications, Shakespeare quartos, cryptography, Rosicrucian manifest. So I suspect that there was something, and Paul Leppen did an extensive research with this together with some other people that he found, and how it moves all over Europe is the same wood carve you can see very easy in Photoshop when you overlay stuff when it's the same wood, the same piece, so it just moves all over Europe.
Yeah. It's so great that you cooperate with others, that you have Lappin on board and others, and I know that Petter is sympathetic to your work, but he's still a little doubting Thomas, and but I hope that when you get to publish more details, first of all, you need to convince, it needs to be fact, right? But so that you can get most of these people out there fully on board. So maybe this whole restoration project going on, this rediscovering project, can be a joint group venture, just as the original project was a group venture.
Yes,
Of
yes,
different brilliant minds. Yeah.
yes, of course.
So I'm so encouraged to work.
The
And
first thing that's going to happen is get my full work that I still cannot disclose. I'm sorry to say it, but my full will be out.
yeah.
And there's both physical discoveries and cryptographic discoveries that need to get out.
Hmm.
Go out. There must be some deals, and there must be,
Yeah.
I cannot reveal it.
No, it's the way of the world. I think this is a very good point to take a break.
Yeah.
And when we come back, we will go now in depths more into your own approach.
Yes.
And your own involvement, both in your research and your actual actions, because as we've already dropped by passing, Daniel has been hands-on at Oak Island, and he's been a part of this television series. It's going on there. It's the History Channel. So you can tell us a little about your involvement with them, the Lagina brothers and all that, when we come back after the break.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Excellent.
All of our files are free and will remain free. If you like the show, you can show support by donating $1 to help with expenses. Just use the PayPal link on our website, YouTube channel, or Facebook page. Thanks.
Welcome back to part 2 of this incredibly exciting esoteric mystery trail that we're trying to crack here, or at least understand a little. And we have with us Daniel Ronnstam, and we've talked about Oak Island in part 1, and we talked about Bacon, and people will probably have a little bit better understanding now of this esoteric project that's been going on that can substantiate your findings, which I want us to delve more into now. Now, you told us in part 1 that it all started with you being tipped off. You did some research, you educated yourself, and then, bang, you discovered something.
Yes, it was.
What was this?
It was actually enormous luck, or what you can call it. It was a freak accident that happened.
Yeah.
So I made first I thought I was just making things up, but then when I investigated the place where I found this in, I found another structure that was, I got the same result from another structure in the same work, actually, that was completely different. Or not completely different, but quite different in construction.
What work are we talking about here?
I'm sorry, I can't tell that. Now I'm there again. So, I'm sorry.
Okay. But let's backtrack, because I thought that your first discovery had to do with the stone.
No, that came later. I found that out
Ah.
later on. When I was.
Okay, so let's just tiptoe around this then.
Yeah.
You discovered something connected to Oak Island.
Yes.
That has to do with codes.
Cipher, actually. But,
Ciphers, yeah. Let's just call it codes, though, for us simpletons.
So, what I did was I got the connection that connected Oak Island quite distinctly cryptographically with Bacon, actually. And I cannot say where I found this as of yet because of contractual situations, negotiations. But
Sure.
But that led me on to just, what do you say? I just flowed straight into historic cryptography and just read everything I could, and began, working on this document because, of course, we are intrigued. I've read Dan Brown's book. I thought it was a bad book, but but I was interesting. Of course, you're interested when you find something like this. You get very interested, and and I'm not a Dan Brown fan. I'm not saying that, but what I found, my approach to it was, I have found something. I have to follow this through. It doesn't matter what it costs. I have to follow this through. If I can make it myself, I will make it myself. Otherwise, I will take in some help from somebody. And I just spent 4 years just going through this, and it took a very long time to do.
Did you discover in those 4 years that there weren't that many experts around, actually?
Yes, there were very little,
Yeah.
And yes, but what happened later on was that when I started reading on cryptography, and I got into polyalphabetic ciphers, and I started checking this Dr. Williams' decipherment of the Kempton sequence from Oak Island. And
Hang on, what is the Kempton sequence in Oak Island?
the Kempton sequence is a set of 40 symbols that was sent from an A.T. Kempton to Blair in 1949. He sent them, and he claimed he got them from an old school teacher.
Oh yeah, it's a translation of the stone, right?
Yeah, the 40 symbols.
Sorry to interject here, but I'm just thinking of the listeners who maybe don't know what we talk about. I don't want us to lose them. I want them to get engaged.
Yeah.
So could we backtrack all the way to the stone itself, because we didn't touch upon it. We just mentioned it in part 1, but people have no idea what it is. So let's start with the very fact that we did talk about, that there are several digs, and one of the oldest, and probably the first one, is called the Money Pit.
Yeah.
And you said that when we dig 100 meters down there, they found something, right? What did they found?
That was the iron plate in the bottom, but the first, down to I think it was 80 or 90 feet, they found just a wooden platform, and then platforms, and then there at 90 feet or 80, they found a stone slab, like weighing 300 kilograms, a little bit rough on the edges, and one side was flat. I think there was something describing that, and there were symbols on that, and they took it up from in 1803 or 1804. They took it up from the money pit, and it ended up in the house, in the fireplace just beside in Smith's house, and it was there for a number of years. Many people saw the symbols, but no one could decipher them. And then suddenly in 1893, I think it was, there was a prospectus from the Oak Island Treasure Company, which claimed there was no picture of the symbols, but they claim some professor, which I think was Leshti from the Dalhousie University, made a substitution decipherment of symbols into English that said 10 feet below 2 million pounds lay buried. And that is the earliest account of a decipherment of those symbols.
And that message would be the exact message needed to create a Klondike-ish fever of a treasure hunt, right?
Yes, but actually the thing was that they say just beneath that in the prospectus, they say that we by no means claim that this decipherment is correct. But anyway, the existence of the stone can never be doubted. But the stone itself, we didn't know where it is today.
No, it went missing, didn't it?
It went missing. But the thing is, the Kempton symbols say 40 feet below 2 million pounds are buried. Oh. And a machine can make that substitution decipherment for you, and you get 40 feet out of it.
Okay.
And the crypto software that solves substitution ciphers.
So that's not a very elaborate code, is it?
No, it's more or less, it's impossible someone created those set of symbols not thinking about the 40 feet below 2 million pounds message. But everyone, it's completely banal message, and everyone thought it must be fake. Yeah. Because this come from 1949.
Yeah, it's so Disney.
Yeah, it's so Disney, yeah.
That was my first impression too. Oh my God.
It seems fake, but when I read Dr. Wilhelm's, because he thought it was a polyalphabetic cipher, he didn't believe in the substitution decipherment. He thought it was a Porta polyalphabetic cipher.
Let's just educate listeners here. That means there is several messages in the same.
Yeah, it means that there is a polyalphabetic message also in Spanish. That's a completely different way of encrypting information that shifts an alphabet for each step. So, and Dr. Wilhelm was an educated cryptographer during World War II, and I've talked to his son, and it took him like 6 months to do the break for that encryption. Wow. And this is so hard for people to understand, but if you know how polyalphabetic ciphers are constructed, you will understand that it is, if you have repeated symbols, the same symbol that repeats several times, which the chemical symbol sequence is full of, then it's completely impossible just to create a message and then create rules. It's not impossible, but it's extremely, extremely hard, depending on how many times it repeats the same symbol. And what I'm looking for is some trained cryptographer to take a look at this, someone with a name that has credibility. I'm an amateur cryptographer. If some expert,
I think everyone is. Are there any really professional cryptographers in this area today?
not exactly in this area, but you can express this in mathematics. So a guy in studying cryptology in a data log in university, he's working with computers, but he can make a statistical analysis of this, no problem. You can transform it to math, and but it has not been done because nobody's interested in doing it.
No.
So when I get more time, I will do a tutorial which you can print, and like with small sticks, you can move around. You can try to break the cipher yourself. But I don't have time to do that now. But I will do it later on.
Cool.
So anyone can see that it's more or less impossible for it to be any other message. Now, even if you invent your own rules, you can't invent the rules so that they match all the way when you go through the decipherment.
But many people have this almost superstitious belief that computers can do and crack anything. I asked Peter just to cover that question, and I had to ask you too. Is it not possible with a good enough computer power and program to run these things through computers to crack it, or is this so sophisticated that it's actually impossible even for computers to decode?
Do you mean the Kempton symbols now, or anything?
Well, I actually mean everything involved in this. I asked Peter out of his discoveries in Shakespeare and stuff. Now I'm asking you out of what you have found. Could you use computers for anything of this, to, if not to crack it, at least to verify it?
Yes, well, you could. You of course you can do statistical calculations, but that doesn't prove anything. It just give you hints. But some structures you might be able to use computers. So okay, it's advanced, of course, but there's another Norwegian guy called Tingestad, I think Richard Tingestad, and he used regex, which is a string commanding program language, which you can actually extract acrostics from a large body of text.
Wow!
Exactly how you want it. You search for a word constructed in some way, and you get hits on acrostic or telestic, whatever you want.
Is he aware of Petter's work?
Yes. I think he got interested in it because of Petter's documentary.
Do you know if he's touched that yet?
What do you mean?
If he's tried to use some of Petter's discoveries this way to verify?
Yes, he has. He had a website up for I don't know if it's still up, but he had a website up where he analyzed first folio for acrostics and for star formations. I think the name of star formations.
I don't think Peter is aware of this, because he proposed the idea that you could do such a thing. But this is huge. He should. This should be more known, because this is another feather in Peter's hat.
Yeah, yes.
Because it means that there's even one more verification.
Yes, well, he found actually a lot of acrostic words and names of constellations in first folio.
And these are the same constellations that Peter found that led to Oak Island, right?
Yes, some of them. And he also found others.
Wow.
Well, if I'm now remember it correctly, but I think you should ask him himself. But I think that the usage of regex as a string command could be very fast to get things out of large bodies of text. I don't know the language myself yet, but it could be used for steganography.
Huh. Cool. Huh. Okay, so So we got this stone. It went missing, and we'll actually get back to that too, because that is also a part of this story. And you found this thing that you can't talk about yet, but which is coming, and then you got interested in this scripture on the stone, and you discovered this, should we say, second message or whatever.
Yes, it do, sir.
No, actually, there was this other guy who did this, but you have an approach on this too.
Yeah,
we should get to that.
He did small mistakes
Exactly.
in his approach, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you discovered this.
Yes, now what I discovered was that if you use the English alphabet, 16th century alphabet, instead of the Spanish 16th century alphabet, then you don't have to swap any symbols. Dr. Wilhelm thought they were remembered wrongly,
Right.
but they are not. They are correct as they are, but if you use the English alphabet.
So what gets changed is from 10 feet to 40 feet? Is that the only significant change?
Yes, it is. And it's, if you look at this way, I'm completely convinced that the Kempton symbol sequence from a letter in 1949 is a dual cipher. You have two messages, one simple in substitution English, 40 feet, and one more complex in Spanish that actually say how you stop the water tracks.
Let's state them now both. Remember, this is radio, so they don't have the visuals. Repetitions can be good. So let's just state the messages then again, so people have it clear in front of them. Let's begin with the English one.
Yes. The English substitution decipherment is 40 feet below 2 million pounds are buried.
Ooh.
And if this is a message that was actually on a stone in the pit, it could be explained by 40 feet below 2 million pounds are buried. It sounds very, banal, strange and very simple. And I think it's designed to be that way. If this set of 40 symbols was actually the ones found on a stone in the pit, and they are a dual cipher, it will actually explain a lot why the stone was located there, because the 40 feet below 2 million pounds of buried message defines the money pit as a treasure keep and not as a mine or a storage facility or something, like a weapon storage facility.
Or a temple.
Yeah, or temple, whatever. It looks actually like a mine if you look at it when you have this going downwards. But it defines that as a treasure keep for the simple-minded, that it's a simple substitution decipherment. And when you crack it, you think you have cracked the message in the symbols, and you don't look for another message. But if you're educated, you will see that the symbols, and there are other clues as well, but you will understand that there are possibilities for polyalphabetic cipher. And then you have to break that cipher, which was what Wilhelm did. And that is hard. It's very hard, especially, if in the 16th century, it was also very hard, And, Wilhelm didn't use computers either. If you use computers, it would be easier. And then you get the true message out. At 80, guide maize, corn into long sea inlet drain.
You have to repeat that.
Yes. The Spanish message say, if you translate it to English, at 80, guide corn in long narrow sea inlet drain.
Huh.
And then you have F as a signing, meaning possibly Francis Bacon.
Or Freemasons.
Or Freemasons or whatever.
Yeah.
But that actually explains how to stop the water traps. And how to get further down into the...
And I think we should explain how that explains how to stop the water, the booby traps.
Yes, the cave-in pit and the South Shore pit, and maybe the Restall pit as well, they were bricked holes, like a meter at 1.5 wide, and they have brick walls or clay walls, and the top was like a dome, and on top of the dome there was like vegetation on ground level, so they were hidden on the Oak Island surface. And what you do is you find them, and you bring in a ship with corn, and you pull corn into them, and the corn will swallow up, and it will plug the channels.
That's so genius.
Yeah,
It's an old-fashioned,
but
very effective. Yeah.
And of course, if you don't manage anything, you get tired, you go away, the maggots will eat up the corn, and it would all work again. So it's an ingenious low-fi way of storing things,
Yeah, that's the low tech of the time, so it fits.
Yes, low tech of the time.
But it's such an Indiana Jones
Yes.
type of elaboration.
Yeah.
But then, did you see that episode of The Curse of Oak Island, where they had these Scottish guys who connected it to the old Scotland, to Sinclair, to the Templars, to the corn that's found in Roslin? And corn, obviously, at that point was unknown in Europe, came from America.
Yeah, I saw that episode, yes.
What's your thought about that? Do you think that's a further substantiation of what we're talking about?
Could be, but actually the Spanish translation is medio, which is maize. So I don't know if it's exactly is corn. It could be other types of seed as well,
Oh, okay. But maize, doesn't that mean a labyrinth?
No, not that kind of maize. It's
okay.
medio, if you translated this in the English word maize, but it means corn, corn-like things, corn.
Okay.
Like seed things.
Mm.
But yes, I've seen that. The Roslin Chapel. I've seen those. There are a lot of green men in there, and there are these corns and stuff.
Mm.
And of course, I believe the Vikings were there. I think it was known. America was known for a long time.
Yeah, I think a Norwegian academician 50 years ago proved it. I think his name was Helge Ingstad or something. And the Kensington runestone and all that. And there's also indications is the word, that the maps that the Newfoundland Vikings had went to the Jarl of Orkney, and he was in connection with Sinclair.
Yeah.
And he had a relative. I should really educate myself and get these details right, because this is the second time I'm mentioning it on air, and it's pathetic that I don't have the details right. But it goes, it's just the details I can't remember. But what's positive is that one of Columbus's relatives was married to one of the close relatives of the Jarl. And or was it Sinclair? That's what I can't get straight. And so there is a physical possibility of a map going from the Vikings to Columbus, who obviously was a Knight Templar himself. And Bacon and these guys, if they are really burying, like Petter says, King James was involved, they got it from Scotland. And put it over there, then we have the Templar connection anyway.
Yes, it could very well be something inherited that you have to remember around the year 1600 in England, it was the worst society you can ever think about. You forget the Dark Ages, Elizabethan England for the common man was horrible. It was like it was a police state completely, with informers. Everyone could be an informer and just get a cut from informing illegal stuff, and everything was controlled, from selling wool, everything, and she had like torture. She tortured people like live in front of children every day. There was torture going on.
And the Tower of London and all that, yeah.
Yes, it was a very, very horrible society, and for the common man. And they thought they couldn't protect what they were protecting because they was afraid of getting imprisoned. That's my theory, and that's why this whole thing started about the Oak Island project.
Yeah, because there was this power battle between the James faction and the Elizabeth faction, right?
Yeah, but James came after in 1604, after Elizabeth there. But there was a Catholic problem. She was hunting down Catholics and people that thought differently a lot, And even if people were not like religious Catholics, they had customs and ceremonies that were Catholics.
Right. Do you know when the gunpowder plot was?
Not exactly. When was that?
Because that was also a part of this battle between Catholics and Anglicans.
Yes, and that is it's very interesting because it's quite central to the people surrounding this, you know.
Yeah, what do they say? Remember the 5th of November, is that it?
Yeah.
The gunpowder treason and plot or something like that. We have forgot though. But
Yeah.
yeah, so this is the political circumstances. So obviously, this is not a place to have such powerful artifacts and treasures as what may be in the Templar heritage. So yeah, let's go to the New World. Let's escape like so many people did from Europe
Mm.
onwards. And yeah, we buy that scenario.
Yes, and then build a mechanical system that you don't need anyone remembering things to protect it.
But they haven't tried out your method by putting corn and stuff in there yet, have they?
Now, I don't think it's any use now because it's blown up with dynamite and everything is dug, so there won't be any use. But what they should do is investigate those 3 other pits for original work
Right.
in the walls. That's what they should do because I don't know. I know that they promised in the last series to put down like a tunnel straight down into 10x to put in divers.
Yeah, they did start to put in divers, but it went bad.
Yeah, in season 2, yeah, but
Yeah.
but before season 3, now they promised in season 2 that they would drive down a pipe straight down for a diver to get on to 10x.
Right.
So
Let's get to that part. You got involved because just like Petter he was invited over in. Actually, he went over, and then they cooperated. He got onto the screen. Of course, there was politics later and intrigues, and the producers didn't quite like the fact that he supported the bill about an archaeologist on site, so he's kind of out. But at least he got to be displayed on an episode, and then you was invited over. Was that in season 2 that you showed up, or was it in season 1? I forgot.
I was in season 2.
So you came the season after.
Yeah.
So how did you did you just contact them and say, and by the way, when we say them now, let's just clarify this too, that today, like I said, there is History Channel is there, and they got these 2 charming cowboys, these brothers called the Laginas, Rick and Marty Lagina,
Yeah.
and their team.
And Craig Tester.
And they are basically, they are the diggers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you contacted them, or how did that work?
Yes, I was sending them some material for a while before that, and I got connection with Rick Lagina first, and he's a very nice gentleman.
Yeah.
And I think they're making a good job. I think there are already laws in place that could control what they're doing, because if they find anything at all that is below a certain age, they have to stop everything and take in archaeologists.
Okay.
That's the law, how it is right now, even with a treasure trove.
Okay.
And they cannot keep anything unless it is like pure gold or some pure. If it's worked on by man, then it's an historic artifact and it belongs to.
Yeah, it's a cultural artifact. It's not that they will sell it on the black market and enrich themselves. No. But Rick Lagina, he's smart enough to realize that. I noticed that the swamp is essential here, and he also is the guy who recognized your, should we say, contribution.
Yeah, he's interested in my work. Yeah, he is. I got that by notion, and he's a very nice guy. And but of course there are like 4 or 5 guys in partnership there, and it's very complicated, and the process they're doing there with the show and everything is quite a complicated process. But I had a nice stay there, and we found Victory Stone again and dug it up to confirm Petter's theory.
Is that the one with the Victory Stone? Is that the one with the triangle on? 3 dots?
No, that's Kingdom. If it is a triangle, but there's some dots on the Kingdom. I haven't seen those myself, but I can say Victory Stone is definitely worked on by man, and there are a cement patch on one of the edges.
Wow. But it's the same as the other seven. It's the same as those flat on one side and rounded on the other,
Yeah,
right?
flat on one side, and you see it's very smooth and nice, and you see tool work on the side of it, and the flat side is very rough.
Yeah.
So it looks different than Kingdom. Kingdom looks almost natural, but Victory doesn't look natural at all.
Let's just update people. We're talking about, for those who didn't listen to, which you should have done because we have to get this in the right sequence. But we had a program with Petter. It's about one of the owners of the island, Fred Nolan. He discovered what he thought was a stone cross. And to Peter, he realized that this is not just a stone cross, it's actually the draft of a tree of life, which is more elaborate. And today, they found 7 of the 10 stones. It's not that they've looked for the 3 others and haven't found them. It's that one of them is beneath the swamp, and the 2 others, as I understood it, is on Nolan's possession, and he doesn't want people to look for them or something. So because there's a conflict between the owners, blah blah blah, politics.
Yeah.
So, but of these 7 stones, we're now talking about, because every point in the Tree of Life called a Sephirot.
It's called Sephirot.
Yeah, Sephirot. Every sphere, every point, every stone, Sephirot. And we're talking about the one called Kingdom. And that's the one at the bottom, isn't it?
Yes, that was the one Petter went for first in 2003, I think. Yeah.
And that's where you would assume that the treasure was buried.
Yeah. If you see that as Petter did, that it is a Renaissance Tree of Life, Kabbalah Tree of Life construction, could be, because it lays in the center points for the Sephiros. Then of course you go to Kingdom first. Yes, that's what I would have done as well. But the thing is, there is another position in those kind of Renaissance Tree of Life structures called Daath.
Yeah, the 11th mystical one.
Yeah, the hidden Sephirot. I don't know if the pronunciation is correct for Daath, but
Daath, yes.
That position is actually located straight under Tom Nolan's new build house. He built a house now, so over it.
Wow, maybe he's sitting there digging in his own house without nobody seeing. Maybe that house.
The cellar.
Yeah, maybe that house is just pro forma. He's a clever old man, I think. He's a land surveyor, and he knows about Petter's theories.
Yes, the thing is, Fred Nolan, the old man, he's not living on the island anymore, I think. But Tom Nolan, the son, he's the actual owner of the property now.
But is he still keeping the antagonism going, or is he more open-minded, or do you know? Have you met him, talked with him?
No, I haven't met him, but he seems to be friend with the Laginas and everything. There's no conflict between them at all.
Cool.
But I think he doesn't go against his father.
No, of course, but even if in the future, whatever, I mean, if he really is settling there with a new house, he lays there in his jacuzzi, and then you and Petra and Lagina comes with spades in your hand and say, shovels in your hand and say, hey, we're going to dig here, the treasure is under. Not necessarily he would want that house to be, if it's his home now, that's a bummer. It's in the middle of the...
Yes.
Oh my God.
But that position needs to be investigated, and it will be sooner or later. But it's
I think so.
So you have to dig up his cellar.
Yeah, I'm not sure he needs to be convinced, and he's seen his father chasing this windmill his own life, right? Like everybody else. I don't know his position, but
yeah.
It's not a good thing that he's building a house on that. And just building a house there could ruin the whole site.
Yes, but he didn't know about that, the Daath position, I think.
No, of course not. That's what I mean. He's, okay, let's put the house down and bam.
Yeah.
There goes Daath.
Yes, it's his property, but my personal thought about the whole Oak Island thing is that actually the owners that own it now, the Lagina brothers, are the absolutely most responsible people that have ever been on that island digging. The province have completely raped this historical project by how they have handled that island for 200
Yeah, if you look at the history, yes, it's a mess.
It's a mess, yeah. They're raped completely, and now, you have, the problem is themselves can't do what the Laginas are doing on the island now, because they have assets themselves to go in with their own assets and do this for interest in the historical thing. The problems can't come up with that kind of money because there's not enough proof that there is actually something there right now. You understand? If there were more proof, maybe the province would be more interested in having, universities, archaeologists coming down and so on. But right now, there are no people except the Laginas that have assets enough to go into this in a responsible way.
Yeah, and History Channel, obviously.
Yeah, okay, they're using history, Prometheus, to pay for it all, of course. That's smart, and I think it's okay, it's appropriate. But if you pull back 200 years, you pull back to the 40s or 50s when the province got more responsible and new laws came in. They didn't change anything. Then Dunfield came in the 70s and completely raped the whole place with the bulldozers.
Yeah, was that the oil company diggers?
No, I don't know that. But Dunfield was. I don't know if he was an oil guy, but
yeah, okay.
But what I'm thinking is that they shouldn't have allowed that at all. From when the new laws came in place in the 40s and 50s, they should shut it down and just allowed archaeological projects, proper archaeological projects.
But don't you think that things were screwed up already back when the booby traps was ignited? The first people who went there? Or actually your theory is that it's a decoy.
Yes.
I think you need to explain that. Because if you're right, we shouldn't be so worried, because many people, especially those who follow Petter's work, are worried because one of those diggings, we say digging, but they're not using showers, they're drilling. One of the drillings discovered a old pergament, an old page, which could be of Shakespeare's works, which is one of the hypothetical items in the treasure, right? So that's a bomb, and that was not in 10x, that was in the money pit, right?
Yes, and as I said in my website, I think it's very probable, considering what I found, that the box in the around, they called the chapel chamber, I think it's called, the cement chamber in the 153-foot level.
Yeah.
That box was found by the auger drillers. That's where they found this piece of parchment, the paper where this with writing on, and that was one of the functions of the money pit, was that box, and it was surrounded by blue clay that is waterproof. Like a few meters up and below it, there were blue clay, and that's the only place they found blue clay in the whole money pit.
Yeah.
So the reason, but the money pit continues beneath it, and probably just goes out in caverns and so on. But that is all a decoy. The important thing is the box in 153-foot level, the chapel chamber, and those documents in there.
Yeah, but do we know it was a box?
Yeah, they know it was a wooden box with cement around, or box-like thing,
Yeah, a square.
Yeah, it could be, okay, they don't know if it's a square, it could be a circle or whatever, but...
okay.
But it's some kind of container containing documents. And the
parchment was dipped in mercury, right? In quicksilver, which again points to Bacon.
Yeah, I don't know. They found mercury in the money pit. I don't know if it found it on the parchment precisely, but
I think they did, because it wouldn't survive if not.
No, of course it couldn't survive. So yes,
I think it was dipped. Okay, I'm not an expert, but people go and research this. We don't have that advantage. We're live on tape, as they say. But let's say then that it was dipped in mercury, or at least they found a lot of mercury. But the point with mercury, for those who don't know it, is that it is an ancient way to preserve stuff. And the whole one of the crucible points with Petter's theory is that. Bacon did preserve their writings and probably also the Shakespearean writings originals in mercury. He even wrote a book about how to do it.
Yes, yeah, it's an ingenious way. It takes out all the water, all the air, and kills all bacteria. So when you take it up, it looks exactly the same as when you put it down. It doesn't matter how long time passed, So it's very ingenious. But money pit has several functions, and one of the functions is to be a beacon, to never forget the project. People need to keep digging, and the other one was to deliver information to those who could get past the water traps. That information was stored in that box. That's a theory of mine, in center theory.
And the code you cracked, is that just about how to stop this second code? Is that just message? Is that just to stop the water traps, or does that
in the
stone?
On the stone? Yes, that's how to stop the water traps.
That's all it has to do with.
It makes you go look for some drains, some place to put mace corn inside,
Okay, but it doesn't hint that this is a decoy.
No, not at that. No, it just makes you go past the traps,
But that means that it's meant to be open, because why would they? One thing is to have traps there for the greedy simpletons who just want to bomb their ways to the big pirate treasure. But what about, okay, we get this, now we stop it. Why would they do that if not that was also connected to the site somehow?
No, it's, as I say, it has several functions, and the functions are stepwise. So the first people who come to the island are simple settlers or fishermen. They will find the pit, and they will start digging. What is this? And then they find the stone, and maybe if they are a little bit intelligent, they get the English message, and they say, "Wow, it's a treasure keep! Wow, let's keep digging." And then the water comes. Then we got to get past the water because there's a treasure here, So they start digging, and they can't get past the water traps. And then someone came along and see that with education, and see that maybe this is a polyalphabetic cipher as well, and they start working on it. And then the educated people say, "Hey, now we have the instruction. We should find other drains and put corn in them, and then we get past the water traps." And then they get past the water traps, and then they found the cement chamber with information inside.
So you think, okay, so it's like the next clue then to where to go to.
Yes, and if they are unworthy and come down there, they just, what is this box with documents?
Oh my God, yeah.
Put it in there. Let's dig further, because that's shit down.
Yeah, we're looking for the gold.
Yeah, exactly. So it would still be a beacon, even if you get the box up, because there's stuff further down as well. So it, and then the swamp at Mercy Point, Petter's theory, I don't know what it is right now, but he was the guy who found the Mercy Point. I just built on that theory, as I say on my website, that at Mercy Point, way down under the swamp, below tree root level, there are another box, almost the same as there are in the money pit, with information encrypted.
Right.
In documents, So this is the backup structure. The money pit is the main structure, but it faced the problem of being destroyed because of the beacon function. And then you have the second structure, it's the swamp and the tree of life formation.
That's actually very nice if that exists. But maybe we should consider that all the points of the Tree of Life have some information. I mean, okay, we know that some of them just have some simple symbols or something. But
dots, I believe, faint dots possibly. And victory doesn't have that. Victory is just, there's no symbols whatsoever. But you see, it's worked on by man quite heavily, you know. But it's just a flat surface. I didn't see any kind of. I really looked really carefully, and I didn't find anything, you know.
Yeah, but what about? What about if you're into Kabbalah? You'd put special emphasis on. Okay, if it was me, then I would go to Kingdom. I would go to Beauty. That's very central. I would go to Daath just because of its obscure position in this, and I would go to Crown. I don't know. Do you have any ideas? Why would I choose? We do know that Mercy, at least, has some relevance because of Shakespeare. It's not like Peter took it out of his. He did find it, and so I guess both Victory and Mercy is not random, but wouldn't you yourself think that we should look at, you said yourself Daath could be, maybe you think Daath is the place?
Well, it's extremely much more complicated than that, my theory, but I cannot, as I said, I cannot go deeper into it, you know. And I'm so sorry I can't do it right now. I just want to tell you, I just want to tell everybody, but I can't. Sorry.
But answer us a yes or no question at least.
No.
Is it no, but let me ask the question.
Yeah.
Could it be, according to your theory, that we have to go off this island to find that?
Could be, yes. Could be.
I've heard rumors about Apple Island, one of the neighboring islands. You know anything about that? Heard about that?
No. I know Frog Island. There are some construction work, or some tools thrown into a pond in the Frog Island just beside. Like the workers have been living there or something.
But you've been telling people for a long time that it's coming. Will you try to give them any update now or a disclaimer, you know? People who are following, because we recommend everybody to go to your very nice looking and very informative, easy to the eye website and check it out. You can find a lot of details about Daniel's work there and stuff. What would you want to see your fans, to your supporters?
Within a year, there will be a massive revelation regarding Oak Island. And my website is not updated for a long time, and I'm not active on my Facebook page as well. But I'm working a lot. I'm working my ass off, actually, in the behind the scenes here, because I want to do this the right way. And there's going to be a massive revelation, yeah.
A massive revelation. So a game changer.
A complete game changer, yeah.
Wow.
And that sounds like a guy just talk shit, because I've said a lot of things a lot of time, but nothing comes out. But I'm sorry for it, but it will come. I promise. It will come.
But you have delivered stuff so far, so you're not, you have some credentials here. So
yes, absolutely.
We're listening.
Yeah.
But have you told, say, the Laginas and stuff about this?
Can't go into details, but I'm in negotiations right now with several different parties, and nothing is decided yet, and we will see how it.
But at least the Laginas know that your work in this is not limited to what you already contributed about the boogie trap and the stone and all that.
No, they know more,
okay.
Know a bit more, so they do. But right now I'm working with documentary film companies and investors and other things.
You're in the same hell as Petter is in. He was delayed because of all that stuff, the business stuff. But it's loosening up now, and I must say that so far your theories. And it seems, I think you mentioned off air that your revelation also is backing up Petter's theory, right? You're substantiating his theory.
Yes, we don't agree on everything, but that's healthy for this kind of project, when you have researchers that doesn't agree on everything. I think it's very healthy to solve something in the end.
Yeah, but remember Petter, he's so critical. He doesn't dare go all in his belief that he's even skeptical to his own work, his own findings.
Yes, but yeah, he is. But he has made some substantial discoveries, which he should be very credited for.
Yeah.
And in the cryptographic scene, as well as on the island with the Tree of Life structure.
Mm.
So see, everything builds on other people's work, of course. You have the Nolans, Fred Nolan finds a cross, and then you have a build on with the Petter, and as well as it's built like this,
Yeah, standing on shoulders.
First, standing on shoulders. The first guy whoever thought Oak Island has something to do with Shakespeare and Bacon was this guy Owen, who everyone thought was completely crazy back in the early 20th century.
That long ago? What was his reason to draw such a conclusion?
Yeah, he took a lot of Renaissance work of Shakespeare and he put him on a big paper wheel, which he could roll, and he had a secretary writing down stuff he picked out from the text. And I read something, and what he used was some hint repetition. And he was not way off there. It sounds crazy, but he was not way off. He was looking for specific words and read contexts around those words and found similarity, even if they were spread out in the publication, And he was a bit eccentric and a bit mad, and everything I've read it. Everything he does was not very analyzed in depth.
No, but isn't this the guy who actually, through this method, find the tomb, the empty tomb though, but still the tomb of Bacon?
He spent his fortune trying to find the Shakespeare manuscripts under the River Wye. How do you pronounce it? Wye?
Yeah, Wye. Lovely place.
Yeah, and
in Wales.
And he was actually quite interesting fellow, but he got forgotten, But he was the first guy who said afterwards, Bacon moved them. It's on Oak Island. He was the first guy.
So already back then he realized it was in Oak Island and not in this empty tomb at the River Wye.
When he didn't find it, they were on Oak Island. And then you had Penn Leary in the 50s who said it, and then Petter Amundsen, and then just goes on.
Who's Penn Leary? Is this a Bacon Society guy or?
Penn Leary was an engineer. I think he visited the island in the 50s, and he wrote a book, The Cryptographic Shakespeare, where he finds some acrostics and I think some kind of Caesar cipher as well in Shakespeare's work. And he claimed that the manuscripts was buried on Oak Island. The second guy after Owen guy, I think. There might be someone in between, but I'm not aware of them.
Right. But you are actually involved in a project to alert. We have a few Canadian listeners, I have to tell you. And aren't you into a project now to try to locate these missing stones so we can get something tangible to work on here?
Yes, I'm unfortunately not very active anymore on the web on that, but there are some people in Nova Scotia that are researching this really, really good, and I have to give a thanks to them because I'm of course very interested in getting this stone out, but they have actually tracked down all these guys from the 19th century, where they lived, the relatives, everything. They made a huge map of how they moved these early guys who was involved in the island,
Yeah.
And they're writing a book. Doug is his name. He and his friends are writing a book on this research. And this should have been done like years ago,
Yeah.
It's but now I think it's the show. Everything starts to.
Yeah, it's interest. It's a renaissance around it.
Yes,
sure.
It's renaissance around this enormously World Heritage kind of project.
Yeah, because people are realizing this is more than just an old pirate myth. So yeah.
Yes, it's extremely elaborate construction. So no, it's
But don't they have a group that you can join if you live in the area or something like that?
yes. I put up two groups. One located in the Oak Island in Scrap Stone. That's the official one. And then we have the same, but the research group with the more intense researchers. And there are quite active people talking there and trying to.
Can we find links to that from your website? Or
I think so. Yeah, to the Facebook. It's a Facebook groups. I think there are links on my website in the first.
So people, if you're interested, you don't have to know anything, but if you live in the area at least, check it out, join, because I remember they ask people, hey, do you know this? Have you seen this, that? That's how things get around. So just check it out. It's called Locating the Oak Island Stone. Is that the name of one of the groups?
Locating the Oak Island in Inscribed Stone.
Okay.
It's called.
Yeah. We'll put out links on your page to these groups so people can find them when they go to your guest page at our website.
Okay.
And where we put up your biography and your bibliography. Not that that's so much yet, I guess, coming. And the link to your website and the link to these groups. So then they can find it there. So they don't have to rely on our Scandinavian pronunciation of these things. Yeah.
Yes, and if you know anything about, have heard anything about these early guys, Craig and Marshall, and yeah, there are early. You can see it on every Oak Island website and book, I think. But if you know anything, live in the area, I've seen any stone somewhere with symbols on, so just contact on the group, the Facebook group, and there are people very interested who come and look at this thing you found.
Yeah. So, but I heard a rumor, or actually I read something. I think it was in one of these Facebook groups. That some people claim it has been located, but that the owner doesn't dare coming out with it because they believe it will be taken into possession by the Canadian state or something. Do you know if there's anything to that, or is it just a typical myth?
Yeah, I don't know. I know the person who claims that, and I have no comment on it, no theory. It's better. It could be true or it could be not be true, but the persons have absolutely nothing to fear because the province will not confiscate it. It was found too early before those laws were in place, so anyone who has it can keep it.
But finding it, do you think finding it would change? Would that be enough to define as a real thing, or would they still want to wait to a menorah or something pops up?
No, if you can prove that it's not fake, if you can prove that it's early work somehow, maybe microscopic so on, then it would be at least extremely important to the Nova Scotia heritage. The Nova Scotia heritage situation around this is extremely important. It's so important that this is the. It's almost like it's the national historical mystery of whole Canada.
Yeah.
It's so galling, but no one here in Sweden knows about it at all. No one. In Norway, they know because of Petter's movies, but no one here in Sweden. If I talk to anyone about Arcadia, they go, what? Nobody knows about it.
Right. It used to be like that in Norway too.
It used to be, yeah.
Yeah, but we didn't. Well, I guess some people who was very into pirate lore and stuff, pirate treasure lore, but most people didn't know. Now it's different. But you can see the writing on the wall, Daniel. You have to get your act together and get a book out very soon.
Yes.
That's how you do it.
Yes, of course.
Or a film, a movie, or a book, or both.
I have 4 times 1.5 hours just on the cryptographic work, PowerPoint, self-running, with narration. So that's with the statistics and everything that just goes through the whole chain of.
But it's not out yet, is it?
No, it's not out. That's why I'm negotiations now.
Right.
So is it not? And it's not only that cryptographic information. There's more than that. But it's a very, very difficult project to realize at this point. That's why in negotiations, there are many different parties to see how it unfolds here. But if it unfolds the way I want it, it's within a year, and there'll be press release.
Okay. Does it include a multi-work and different texts and stuff like that?
Yes. Yes, it does.
I suspected as much.
And I'm trying to get as far away as possible from the Dan Brownish feeling of it. It's much more towards proper cryptography with analysis and logical verification points and statistical analysis, so on. So boring to some, but it's important to get away from the Dan Brownish feeling of it. Even if the context seemed very Dan Brownish, I have to get away from that in order to get investors.
Yeah, but on the other hand, Daniel, I'd venture that investors usually are not interested in lifting civilization. They're interested in money making. And remember, the Dan Brown thing it's a two-edged sword, because on the one hand, it made mainstream just a notion of these things. Esotericians knew about it all the time. I mean, back in the 80s, 90s, you remember Holy Blood, Holy Grail, and of course before that too, but Holy Blood, Holy Grail was one of the first, I think, popularization, one of the first pulp versions of this. And then came Dan Brown later. Many I haven't mentioned now that Dan Brown built on, not just Holy Grail, Holy Blood, but when that book came, everybody, my neighbor, and everybody was, reading it, and now they know they don't have to understand it, they don't have to believe it, and that's of course why everybody started to diss it too, because it became too popular. You have to, how it works. If anything becomes too much of a fashion, all the naysayers and the critics and academics, no, the Christians, the skeptics, everybody joined forces to crush it, right? So there was almost nobody left to defend something like that. And of course the unfortunate effect of that is that when you then come afterwards with something genuine, you just laughed away. You read too much Dan Brown. Sure, but remember, if it wasn't for that, it maybe would be even harder, because then people wouldn't even be conditioned to realize that this is a thing.
Yes.
Then it's just too. It's like talking about aliens or something. It's just too out for them.
But there is a problem for me with that approach, because my standpoint on this is that I have found something that was actually created 450 years ago, or almost, by Bacon in his group. But it's so subtle, and the verification process is so long and complex that if I go in a 30 minutes PowerPoint lecture and I show it, but people say, that looks interesting, but we have no idea that what you are saying is correct. How can we verify that? Right. We have to go through the whole process ourselves. That's
so it's a scholarly process then.
A scholarly process, and it needs to be, because it is a historical thing. I need to project it like that. And if I go, have some guy like Dan Brown ghost write my story around it, I would just, maybe I sell books, but then it would just be forgotten or be like fiction or something. I don't want it to be like that, because it's not fair to the historical project,
No.
In my belief.
No, but I'm with you there. No, I'm just saying, I'm not saying do a Dan Brown, but I'm saying it's not just negative what he paved the way for, though. But a natural question to ask you concerning this then is that when this is out, will that in any way contribute to ease the search for this ever riddled treasure?
Yes, it will. I very much hope so. So,
I mean, then the Laginas should invite you back, for sure. Are you on good terms with them, the History Channel people?
Yeah, I think so. Yes, it's it's a complicated thing to approach them. It is, but we're on good terms. Absolutely.
Yeah, good.
There's no conflict or anything like that.
No, but the thing is, when it's out there, they would be briefed, they would be made aware of this, right?
Yes, as soon as possible. They own parts of this historical project because it's located on their island. So and the other parts
Oh,
is
so there's 3 owners: the Laginas, the Blankenship, and Nolan.
and Robert Young and another one.
There's
That's-
that many. Oh.
Yeah, there's a few others that have island lots as well.
I know they have a Mason on that team, or actually maybe 2. Are any of them they just team members, or any of them owners? Do you know that?
They are not owners, I think. I don't know if there are any Masons that are owners.
Yeah, well, one of them I think followed you to the Masonic. I think he made a connection to the Masonic Lodge library that you visited in the episode. Remember?
You mean Kel?
I guess it's Kel. I don't know the names.
Yeah, but he's not the owner. He's friend of Charles Barkhouse, though.
Okay.
But he's one of the guys writing the book about the stone. He's a very, very nice guy. I like Kel a lot. He's very nice guy, and he's very interested in.
Yeah, he's one of the Masons who realizes what this is about.
Yes. He's a very, very high up Mason. I think it's 32nd degree. He's a very nice guy, actually.
Mm. So, no, well, I said to Petter, you should talk to all the Masons in the world and see if they can make some crowdfunding, because allegedly the Masons have money, but I don't know. But just to wrap this up, what about the treasure itself? Do you have any thoughts about what that can be?
I believe it's something that was inherited by Bacon got entrusted to lead a group to protect this within a mechanical system. And I believe it's the Shakespeare manuscripts is the bait for future people to go to look for this.
Okay.
One of the baits. Not all of them, but and it's esoteric. It could be esoteric prints. It could be artifacts. It could be religious artifacts of gold or some other very valuable metal or something that could be, if it come in the wrong hands, it will melt it down and sell the gold and stuff. And this is why they need this protection system to get the right people to find it. It could be Petter's theory. It could be the menorah. That is because I don't know, but.
Yeah, but both the menorah and the ark are also said to be, many people believe they are technologies from an antediluvian civilization, like the ever-burning lamp, and the ark is...
I will not go that far, though. But
No, I know, but many people do, because if it's radioactivity. We'll not go. We don't have time even to cover that now. But it could be anything, and I hope, my personal favorite, what I hope is part of this is old books, documents from, let's say, the Alexandria Library, something that survived that tells us about our unknown, riddled, ancient history.
That would be interesting, indeed, actually.
And that's not far-fetched, because we know that Templars and others, first of all, they were interested in that, and they were at the right place at the right time to get hold of stuff like that. So.
Yes, and but one attribute that is. These objects need to have, I think, if you consider the full project, is that they need to be in risk of being destroyed if found by the wrong people in their time when they bury it. They need to be protected from people. That's an attribute. And then if you think if that is an axiom for a theory of what it could be, then it could be, of course, forbidden knowledge, like forbidden philosophical things, or religious artifacts, of course.
Or weapons.
Or weapons, yes.
Yeah, it's a huge range of speculations, but it's room for all of those. It substantiates a lot of possibilities.
Yes, it does. But it's I think it's this project is going to be World Heritage. It needs to be up on the World Heritage list. It's and we'll see what happens in the next year here.
Yeah, we'll do. It's so interesting. I thank you a lot, Daniel, for coming on and giving us this update.
Yes.
Yes, I have to say that when your material is out there, maybe we'll have you back, and not to explain it for we can't sit 30 hours here and we don't have any visual help, but just to motivate people to try to help them understand, because I predict that even when you got it out there, you still need to do some enlightenment work about what it's all about, and yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
So let's see. Yeah.
But it will come. But we see the next year here what happens,
Yeah.
So no problem.
Excellent.
Okay.
Well, thank you for this time, at least.
Yes, thank you very much for being part of the show.
My pleasure. So interesting.
Okay.
And that's our program for today. We will return to several of the topics touched upon in this forum, especially Francis Bacon and the Rosicrucian Project, the Knights Templars, and of course the Oak Island Mystery. Again, we apologize for the occasional jagged sound that we have no idea how happened and couldn't fix, but at least we're pleased with having salvaged the file from a worse condition. Now that summer's gone and winter is coming, we have to slow down production, and so releases will be fewer and further between. Unfortunately, donations has dropped off and are more or less ceased, which doesn't help the situation. If we went commercial, like so many others, we would be able to deliver more and even better programs. So if you appreciate our show and its format, the one thing you can do to keep us going is to donate. For instance, if each subscriber donated just $1 every month, just one, we could provide you with 4 programs a month of top quality. Speaking of donations, we want to give a shout out to our few female listeners. Because we've started out with somewhat nerdy topics that generally appeal more to the men, such as war history, 85% of our listeners are male. This will soon balance out, of course, as we in time get to cover a broader spectrum of topics. However, the point is that we are shocked by the fact that among our sponsors, females make up half of the contribution. That's right, 15% of listeners, yet 50% of donations. I must admit it has turned my view on gender and stinginess upside down. So I stand wiser, and a big thanks to you, the forum females. You're super. That's it for me tonight. Hope you've been mystified, entertained, and educated. Until next time, from the Borealis team and your sincere host Al, be seeing you.
Who is number 1?